If you wanna go higher, got to go deeper, deeper, deeper. Gotta light that fire, turn that heater, heater, heater. Kalindi, got good and plenty, plenty, plenty. Kalindi, got good and plenty, plenty, plenty.
I know it seems like this is real, but really it's a dream. In the mirror, building self-esteem. It's a miracle, I'm whipping clean. Visuals, wild things that I never seen. Lower Egypt moving downstream. Chemical regions are now a thing. They pledge allegiance to a down king. Left wing, right wing, same bird, different teams. Favored with the different means. No savior at the embassy.
Welcome to the Left Hand Perspective podcast. My name is BlaZae Bay, and if you are someone who is on a personal path to self-mastery, you find it hard fitting into most social settings, then subscribe to this podcast. First, I would like to say thank you to all the listeners of the podcast who've been tuning in week after week, going on 2 years now since the start of the podcast, and man, it's truly amazing to how far this podcast has come and to where it's going. I also want to give a special thanks to everyone who has been listening to the Left Hand Perspective EP. Now, I've been getting some warm and inspiring comments. Thank you. I appreciate you all, and if you'd like to check out the Left Hand Perspective EP, I have the link in the show notes. It's available on all the different streaming platforms, the Spotify, Apple Music. Go ahead and check that out. On today's episode, I speak with Michael Bell A.K.A. the Professor. Had him on the show numerous times, which I'll also, in the show notes, I'll have links to the different episodes that he's been on if you want to check those out. But today, he pretty much went in on a lecture. I was going to have a conversation with him, but this brother, when the information channels through him, sometimes I just got to let him speak because, like, it might be it's divine shit that's coming out, you know? So he pretty much dropped a lecture on the Akashic Records, his experience working with the Akasha, what he's learned. He also talks a little bit about astral travel and dreaming, and he drops little nuggets here and there that'll help you on your personal journey. So let's get into the lecture.
Thank you so much for having me, man. That's definitely a treat to be on this conversation with you. Most don't know, but we talk offline, and
All the time.
we always have incredible conversations. And I think to myself after we get through talking, man, this could have been an interview or podcast or something.
Man, always. For y'all not familiar, Michael Bell, A.K.A. the Professor. He's been studying this knowledge for years. Occult knowledge, esoteric, Kabbalah, you name it. Last year he wrote a book, The Occult Meaning of Masonry, its symbols and the chakra system. Y'all definitely got to check this book out. I keep this. I'm taking my time with this book, bruh, cause man, I got to skip through it, like go to different sections, then come back. This is close to the Bible to me, dog.
Definitely appreciate it. And I'll say this to you. I know, and it kind of lines up with the topic that we're going to be discussing, which is, Akashic Records. But I can honestly say that the passion and energy that I put into writing that book, I definitely tapped into the ethers. Yeah. When we get into it, I'll break that down more for those who might not understand. But I definitely tapped in, and there was a lot of information that came to me that, to be honest, I had to stop writing and research it because I knew it didn't come from me. So thank you for the compliment. And I can say that the feedback I've gotten, I've sold over 400 copies, which
All right.
which is mind blowing for me.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, that from those who may be new to this, if that's what they believe, or those who feel as though, you know, they're adept and they've been, you know, on this path for decades, I can say that the book has managed to meet everybody on their level,
Yeah.
which is not an easy task to accomplish. You know, it's kind of like in sports. I had my breakout freshman year, so it's time for the sophomore follow up. You know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. I remember when I first came across you. One, I didn't know we was in the same circles for real. Like on Facebook, like on Brother Panic's. He got a Facebook group, Bobby Hemmage. I didn't know you was in there, you know. And I seen you had it was an ad for the book coming out. It wasn't out yet, but as I started to dive into my journey in masonry, it was just like you popped up right on time. It's like when you start a new journey, the people that's supposed to be on your journey, they just fall in line. You really don't have to seek out for them too far when you on their frequency. It's just like they show up, and that's how it was with you, bro.
Man, you know what? That's one of the amazing things that it took this esoteric and occult path for me to appreciate. You know the old saying, when the student's ready, the master will appear, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, I'm a hell of a book reader. So I always felt like the harder I study and meditate, that this guru, this master Yoda was going to appear on the side of the road. But what I realized was that the simplest understanding of that saying is that you are the teacher.
Yeah.
And when you're ready, the path's it's going to open up for you, and you'll start finding all of these synchronicities and coincidences that aren't coincidences at all. So I definitely understand what you're saying, is that when you get on this path, all of a sudden you find exactly what you need right there waiting for you. And I'll give one more example. There are people that I listened to 7, 8, almost 10 years ago on YouTube. I listened to them religiously. They made suggestions about books and meditation practices. I followed it. And what's amazing to me now is that these people are my friends.
Yeah.
And it's like I didn't earn that through no kind of fanboy or, you know, sucking up or just these things flow naturally, to the point that some of the people that I'm thinking of, we've actually been like, man, we had to have been like together in we had to have been friends in the previous life, and we agreed to link up because it's just mind blowing. So I definitely understand, and I just say it again. I'm thankful and appreciative of the response that my book has got.
Absolutely. Y'all got to check the book out, even if you're not, you know, when we start talking about masonry, ooh, that Illuminati shit. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know how people get with that bullshit.
Let me say this too, real quick. I don't want anybody to think that this is a book that you have to be a master mason to read, right. Because to be honest, the majority of people who have bought my books are not master masons. Mm-hmm. I've always been on chakras. I was on chakras before I took the path of becoming the Prince Hall Freemason. So chakras are something that's important to me. Yeah. But what I wanted was a book of correspondence. That was the book that I always wanted. A book that showed you the correspondence from one esoteric topic to another. So that way, if you had something you're working on, you could say, well, if I'm on this chakra, then I can understand where that falls in the tree of life. I can understand how to work with that in terms of alchemy. I can take this principle and I can apply it in my dreams and astral projection, astral travel. If I wanted to make sigils relating to what, just something that you could cross connect and draw dots with. And so to anybody listening, if you are anti-Mason, essentially it is nothing more than a book of correspondence. I just happen to use Masonry as the template. That was and the longer you've been around these esoteric, metaphysical, and occult circles, you'll realize that all of this is interchangeable. It could have easily been uh, uh, the occult meaning of Kabbalah and the chakra. It could have easily been interchanged. So that's all. That's all it was for me. I just wanted something. I wanted to write the book that I wanted to read.
Absolutely.
So I don't want anybody to feel excluded or that these evil masons are trying to nothing like that.
Yeah.
Because truth be told, I'm very few people's favorite mason. I tend to blaze my own trail and I look for my own connections.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I love the book, man. It's helped me in different areas from meditation to just learning how the different symbols correspond to the body. And that's shout out to C. Freeman L for that, Master C. Freeman L, where it wasn't just esoteric and metaphysics, but he gave you knowledge that you could actually apply to something, physical, something to your body, different body parts, different organs, different parts of your brain, and that's what I love about the book.
Yeah, and C. Freeman L, I will be one. I dedicated my book to C. Freeman L because he's one of those people that when I finally got it, when I understood, and he had all those videos on breathing and meditation techniques, and that I had mentioned to you before that literally I would be writing my book and I could hear that baritone in my ear just
generator, operator, destroyer.
Now.
That's how you be talking to me too, man. You be coming in at you be at the randomest times. You know who you are.
But it was just all in all, man. Like you said, a big shout out to C. Freeman, and I'll be honest, Brother Panic, Bobby Hemmett, Dick Gregory, we can say a lot of these, they were very instrumental in the development of my understanding of this path that I walk.
Absolutely. Likewise, man. I'm just grateful to be on this, like just to be open to learning this and to come across, like I said, to come across you. I see my man Lucius in the building. Shout out to him. Just to come across a lot of these brothers who are on this path, and for us to be brothers doing this, you know what I'm saying? Because like for us to be out in the open doing this now, because it used to be so secret. We have to do this. We don't want people to judge us. Exactly. We out in the open with this shit now. So
you know what? I'm still amazed because most people feel as though overall, there's no progression amongst the masses. But I can say this. I've had the same Facebook account since like 2009. I've had the same Instagram account since 2012. And I say this. When I used to post, and I'm not gonna act like I was always where I am now. I used to be one of them dudes that on Sunday I went in on Christianity all day. But what I will say is that I noticed the difference from then as opposed to now because 2012, if I went on any social media platform, especially Facebook, because on Facebook it's gonna be your mama, your godmama, your auntie, your great auntie. And so whenever I would say certain things, it never failed. I got phone calls. Now, son, you shouldn't be saying that. But fast forward to right now, and I'm blown away at the fact that now, my godmom, I have aunt, and I'm talking about people who know not on being a Christian. I have a profound respect for the Bible as well as for religion, period, because it serves a purpose. But the point I want to make is I now have these people who are liking on my comments. What messed me up, my God She's 69.
Wow.
She listened whenever the last time I was on your podcast. She listened.
Wow.
Yeah, I clicked the link, son, and this and that. So the point I want to make is, like you said, now once upon a time that was taboo, and I think that personally, I correlated to the fact that we are entering this age of Aquarius, and so coincidentally, not even I want to say coincidentally, this information age lined up perfectly with the age of Aquarius because that was the we were going to leave Pisces, which is group thought, right? And go to this era of water breaker where this information is yours to dissect and do with as you please. So we have to have social media and the internet right now. And that's played a big part in kind of moderating a lot of people's attitudes. And hey, it's still a lot of people that just don't get it, never will, and it's just not for.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all a process. It's all an internal journey. You know, you can't convince nobody. I ain't nothing to prove. It's just me being a better version of myself. Me going higher within myself. Let's get into this conversation, man. The Akashic Records.
Let's do it.
This is this right here, because I know one, if you listen, it's probably, you know, a bunch many different people in here. You know, you might come from different religions, different beliefs, different spiritual systems. Hey, if you hear something that triggers you, or you know, it just sounds like a bunch of woo woo, hey, it is what it is. You get like it's a reason why we all listening to this right now. You know what I'm saying? And when it comes to what they call the Akashic Records, this is one of my passions. I didn't think this would be a passion of mine. Been really looking into this for the past almost 5 years now. And for me, it came from just a thought like, man, I wonder if there was a way to tap into different memories or different things that happened for a long time ago. Like, this is me just, you know, when you had those questions, that means somewhere there's an answer just by default, because there wouldn't be no reason for you asking. And then I just found out like, oh, there is like, oh, this thing they call the Akashic Records. What is that? And I just been on a journey with that for the last 5 years. So I'm very passionate about this subject, and I want to know, like, for you, how did you get into it? What was your experience working with it, and what is
I
it?
can say, I can say this. Just in terms of my experiences, I've always been a reader, and this goes back as a child. I've always been a reader, and what amazed me as I got older, we kind of get these labels and nicknames, and they fit so perfectly, and they seem spontaneous. Well, for me, I just made I would listen to people like Manly P. Hall, a lot of the older books, a lot of the older authors from like late 1800s, early 1900s, and they always spoke on this Akash. I also say this too, as a kid, I remember watching like Transformers, and they spoke on the Akash and the ethers, and you know, a lot of this stuff we were fed this stuff as kids. So for me, it came from hearing these buzzwords, and then as I grew older, I became interested more in not hearing someone else's perspective, but gaining my own. And so I was listening to you just now, and you said like 5 years now. For me, around, I think it was the summer of 2017.
Wow, that's when I started, bro.
That's why. Hey, I literally made that connection because I said to myself, he said 5 years.
Yeah.
So literally for me, I had listened to all these people on YouTube and read books, and for some reason, the start of summer 2017, we went camping. And I started then. I started investigating Akashic Records, past life regressions, and I literally spent the whole summer meditating multiple times a day, doing past life regressions on myself. And so for me, that was like the start from that. I'll say it's a start, but actually I transitioned from secondhand information to firsthand information.
Yeah.
You know, so that I would list that as my start.
Wow. Yeah, that was pretty much my start as well. And same where I was always that person where I couldn't just read about something. I had to actually I had to actually do it. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
especially like
Mm-hmm.
me, I experimented with mushrooms, you know. And I was tired of watching like YouTube videos or some people saying like, oh, this person had this kind of trip. They did this and saw this and that. It's like you can only go so far riding on somebody else's experiences. It's like I gotta dive into this my own, you know, and see for myself.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know what? That's what pushed me off the fence, just in terms of meditating alone.
Hmm.
I used to be so comfortable listening to old Bobby Hemmett lectures over and over,
Yeah.
listening to him describe channels and dreams, and then one day it just hit me, and man, I want to talk to the goddess myself.
Right.
Man, I want to go to the astral myself, you know. But for me, it just I had to reach that point, and we all have our tipping point.
Hmm. Yeah. What got me started? I'm looking at this book here, and I want you to talk about like you know what you learned as well. The thing that got me started was there was a book called How to Read the Akashic Records, Accessing the Archive of the Soul and Its Journey by Linda Howe. Now,
Mm.
I because I ain't gonna lie, I'm a slow reader. So it just amazes me when people be getting through like a whole bunch of books, you know, because
Yeah.
my attention is just it was hard for me to focus on a bunch of books. But I will say this book right here, I made a vow that I'm going to at least stick to a couple of books and read them enough where I can say that I understand what's going on in this book. So it was one of those books that really helped me, Linda Howe, how to read the Akashic Records. And I like what she said about the Akashic Records. I'm gonna look at this page real quick. Where is it?
Where's my mom at?
Oh, that's your son?
Okay, you got
Is that your
no,
son? Is that your son?
that was my son. You
Yeah,
know,
I
he
love that
hey,
man.
usually he's sitting right here with me
Yeah, I
and he
love that
rolled, but
man.
it's his bedtime. He on a tight schedule. Eight
Oh,
o'clock he
okay.
gotta lay it down.
Time to go.
Yeah. But go ahead, go ahead. Sorry for
Yeah.
that.
Oh, no problem, no problem. She said in the book, the Akashic Records are a dimension of consciousness that contains a vibrational record of every soul in its journey. This vibrational body of consciousness exists everywhere in its entirety and is completely available at all times and in all places. As such, the records are an exceptional body of knowledge that contains everything that every soul has ever thought, said, and done over the course of its existence, as well as its future possibilities. And that was just that right there was something that really stuck to me to think about. Like, damn. So how deep in this can I actually go and understand? And not so much like looking at it as like a physical place, you know, but like how can I use this to know myself a little more, a little deeper, you know, go beyond whatever I think I know about anything. You mentioned something as well with the Manly P. Hall and how he saw the Akashic Records. I was interested about that.
Okay. You brought up some great points. Even what Linda Howe quoted, because that is like the standard basic understanding.
Hmm.
And I'm not. That's what that was very eloquently put. Now, what I will say, I have something here I want to read. I want to say to anybody listening, if if you're unfamiliar with this term Akashic record, if you think you know but not quite sure on all the talking points, I would suggest Manly P Hall. It's easy. You can go on YouTube. You can type in Manly P Hall Akashic Records. He has about maybe 3 to 5 lectures on the topic. Also, there I have a PDF by Manly P. Hall. And the reason why that is tied into Akasha, I'll get into that in a moment. Because like you said, like we were talking, as a kid, I can remember these things and hearing them and kind of gravitating towards them. And we might not know it then, but we resonate, or however people, however we want the term we want to work out best is that we kind of gravitate towards certain things essentially because of previous lifetimes. You hear a lot, oh, that's in the ethers. Well, the ethers is actually like a substance. Everything is comprised of ether. Ether is essentially the substance that everything is comprised of. However, ether also has different layers or levels of refinement. And I'm going to get into that. So, what I really want to do, real quick, to those listening, give me about five, no more than 10 minutes. I want to read through some portions of this lecture that Manly P. Hall gave on the topic of Akashic records and the actual makeup of what we call ether or Akash, because the word Akash is actually a Sanskrit word. And so that's another thing you'll find when you get on this metaphysical and occult path. There are words from different languages and cultures that are the only way you can describe something. The word Akashic, the word Akashic is Sanskrit or Hindu. And so there's really no other word to describe it. I just use ether, but ether actually it's not the absolute best term because there's no other word for it other than to say Akash or Akasha. I'll say this to my movie watchers real quick. Who remembers the vampire movie with Aaliyah?
Queen of the Dead.
Her name was Akash. And she was the mother of all vampires, and within her was all these memories. So I was just saying, real quick, no more than 10 minutes, I wanted to read through some of this lecture because Manly P. Hall is great in the sense that his research and his knowledge is impeccable. His record is, I won't say untarnished, but it's understood that he's a very thorough researcher. And so I just want to read this. Exactly. I want to read this real quick. This is where he's on the topic of Akashic Records. So he starts off, he used Madame Blavatsky. I don't know if most are familiar with her, but she wrote a book that was groundbreaking in her time and still very relevant today. But what he used as an example is that she lived in a small town, and in this town, she barely had heat. She didn't have much. Definitely, this was before the internet. And so she wrote there was a book she wanted to read. I'm going to read it word for word. Well, I'll paraphrase it. There was a book that she wanted to read. And this wasn't so much a book, it was a manuscript. And it was only in the Vatican. So she reached out to a friend that she knew had ties to the Vatican. And she said, hey, I need you to get me a look at that manuscript. The friend reached out to the Vatican. Vatican told her straight up, no, it's not going to happen. Well, Madame Blavatsky, she used meditation and contemplation. She went to deep meditation, and she began to write out one complete page of that manuscript. But the only thing was, there was one word that she couldn't pull down. So people in her circles, I believe she was in the Theosophical Society, they were amazed at what she was able to pull from the ethers, from the Akash. So much so that they began to make more appeals to the Vatican just to verify what she claimed she pulled basically through remote viewing, having no access to this document. Well, with enough pressure, the Vatican did allow the document to be seen, and it turns out she had reduplicated an entire page minus one word that a worm had ate. A worm had went through the book and removed the word. To me, that is mind blowing.
Yeah.
I know it exists. I know it's possible because I've experienced similar. And I think the only thing that stops most of us from having these kind of moments and revelations is we just have a lot more distractions.
Yeah.
Most of us, if we can't find it on Google or Amazon, we give up.
Yeah.
But that was that. Now, what Manly P. Hall went on to say was that The term Akashic record comes from the East Indian term. The word Akash means subtle. Uh, it means subtle essence. So that in itself is a telling term. Is that even in the original language, it really wasn't a very descriptive term for this, but it permeates everything and it's everywhere. And so he was saying that it's not. So he goes on to say it's not ether, but more correctly, it is mental matter. And this is why we access the Akasha through means of meditation, deep thought, contemplation, even through dreams, because it's a form of mental matter. And I'll say this without reading word for word. I'll just go through it from what I know of it because it's something that I have. He uses the example to explain ether and Akash. He uses the example of radio waves. In our day, we're going to use the example of Wi-Fi. You know, we think of the air as being empty, but yet radio signals, television signals, Wi-Fi signals, all these things carry through the air from hundreds, if not thousands of miles away. And if you manage to tune in, you gain access.
Yeah.
You know, some of these channels you got to pay for. If you're not paying for it, you won't get it. In this instance, we'll say that the it's spiritual coin, and that's what you get through deep meditation. Some people get it. Some people get it through diet. Others get it just by living a well life, a well and peaceful life, and you can come to these same conclusions. And so Manly P. Hall goes on to break down Akash, or more effectively, he breaks down ether into four levels. In descending, he has mental matter, which is the highest level. Below that, emotional matter. And then below that, he has etheric matter and then physical matter. And so the way it descends, you see that we inhabit these physical bodies. Our physical bodies retain, hey, on the simplest level, muscle memory. We know that if you do repeat an action enough, you'll have muscle memory and you can recall it without even thinking about it. Then you have the etheric matter, which is just above the physical. Those who know, they should know about like the etheric body, the causal body. You have these 7 etheric bodies that are around you like in the egg shape.
Yeah.
And so the closer you are to the physical body, the more denser this matter and this memory and this substance is. The higher you go up, Manly P. Hall states that it's four lower bodies are the densest. The three higher ones are the ones that are basically like eternal. That's what it survives from reincarnation to reincarnation, which is why he discussed the topic of Akasha under the umbrella of reincarnation karma. Because whether people accept it or believe it or not, most of us have lived multiple lives. And I say most of us because personally, I kind of look around and it seems like it's some young souls here. It really does.
Yeah.
You know how you used to see like when babies be born and they say, "Oh, that's an old soul right here, right there. He's been here before." And so most people, some haven't lived that many lives, or it could be another instance of some people just haven't lived. I don't want to say important lives, but some people haven't stepped out of the masses. Most people just, the example is, say you went up to the top of a skyscraper and you look down at people, everybody would just be little dots. But then if you saw one person in a colorful dress twirling around and cutting through traffic, that person would catch your attention. Everybody else would just be little dots on the ground. And so most of us, a lot of people don't achieve that individuality until they come to an awakening. It's people like Buddha. What's the guy in Tibet that becomes the leader? The name is skipping my name, but the person who is the leader in Tibet, every time he dies in his reincarnation, they set out toys for that child that newly reincarnated. I can't think of the name. That's bothering me. But when that child is reborn, he goes in front of the toys and he picks out his favorite toy.
The Dalai Lama.
The Dalai Lama. So when the Dalai Lama is reborn, when they have a child and they say we think this child is Dalai Lama, they don't tell the child nothing. They just set him in a room with all his favorite stuff, whether it's cigars, golf clubs, whatever it is, and they know that the reincarnated Dalai Lama is going to go directly for his stuff, and it happens every time. The same thing with Buddha. Buddha was said to have remembered 600 of his past lives. That's a clear indication that in every previous life he stood out.
Yeah.
He was not a part of the masses, which most people fall under until they have their individual awakening. So when you look at these past lives in Akashic Records, they exist for everyone, but for the majority, they will not be very personal. It might be racial memory.
Yeah.
It might be cultural identity. Might not even be your own memory. Like, think about it. In the 70s, there were so many Caucasian housewives who said, "I was the queen. I was the queen of Pharaoh. I was the queen of Egypt 2,000 years ago." That's more something that's hoped for, that's wished for.
Yeah.
And I'll say this real quick. I'll interject with one of my personal experiences. When I began doing my past life regressions, and later, remind me if I don't bring it up again, because I do want to give tips and techniques. I don't want anybody to think that what I'm doing is special to me, that I'm a reincarnated Dalai Lama or Buddha.
Yeah.
I want to tell you how I got there, because everything that I got, I worked very hard for.
Yeah.
Very few things came just easy. So I'm in the spiritual world, I'm a working man. I'm a workaday man, you know. But I want to say this, that when I began doing the past life regression, at first, I'm gonna be honest with you, I was disappointed, and I say that because these past lives I was visiting, they seemed so random and subservient. I say subservient because I was always like a teacher or a mentor, or it was always something that I felt like, man, I'm waiting to see where I was Tutankhamun, or I was on the steppes of Mongolia with Kublai Khan chopping off heads. I wanted to see famous shit. I wanted to see super famous shit. But the benefits of journaling, in some way keeping a record of what you write, you experience these things, you write it down. When you go back and look over it, you will see the common connections. You'll see the commonalities. And what I realized was that what I called subservient was actually the fact that in every previous life I went to, I was some sort of teacher, mentor. I had a couple where I was in different spiritual systems. I was like an acolyte. I was a novice of some sort. I can remember one very clearly. This was so vivid. I always tell myself that it had to have been like Lemuria.
Yeah.
Because it was like an ancient. And see, this is what's crazy. When you do these past life regressions, for me, I don't want to define anybody else's. For me, it was like when I went back to these past lives, it was like, remember the old school show Quantum Leap? It was like I was jumping into these bodies at that particular time, and I didn't have the background info. So once I got a hang of sliding into these bodies, I would try to not be suspicious, but try to gather as much information as I could about what was around me. Well, there's one that I say that I personally, I always tell myself it had to have been Lemuria or something. We were in like a cavern. If it wasn't a cavern, we were inside like a pyramid or some kind of domed enclosure, because it was pitch black. But inside the pitch blackness, I had on an all black robe. There were others in black robes, but some had gold like belts. Some had silver. There were different colors. I'm assuming were different grades. I had on a silver little, like the metal, had like a silver clasp around my waist. Had on all black, I had the hooded robe, and in the center there were these three like obelisks, and they were like a volcanic rock black. They were just like obsidian black, but inside of each were these like symbols or sigils, and they were filled with like gold, but the gold seemed to be moving. It was like real liquidy. Now, these obelisks, they were pointed on each end, but yet they were hovering off the ground from their pedestal. And I actually watched as the ritual began. They began to light up, and that's when the sigils and writing on the side of those obelisks began to glow and move. It lifted out the ground, and we commenced with our ritual. Well, I started looking. I started trying to look around so I could take in what was going on, and there was somebody next to me, kind of elbowed me, like, "Man, pay attention. You know, you missing steps. You know." And so, but that was the common thread that I began to notice. I had another one that was very vivid. Oh my goodness, this one was the one that disturbed me to the point, and not like it was scary. It was just disappointing. I literally, I looked like Samuel Jackson off of Django. I was this old Negro, and I was like a mentor or a tutor for this little young, little white girl. And she was as sweet as can be. I was teaching her letters and whatever, and she wanted to ice skate. And I'll never forget. I could see vividly her ice skates were initials embroidered on the side. And I was just like, basically like, well, little missus, you know, you got to finish your numbers before you get to it.
Right.
And at that time, mind you, this is a total opposite from where I was. My mentality was, but back then I was we was kings, right?
Right.
So that one bothered me, and I was just like, man, I'm not doing this shit. You know what I'm saying? This is bullshit.
Yeah.
But like I said, I kept plugging away. And once I looked back, I realized that I was always some kind of teacher. Now, to tie it into right now, my pen name for my book is The Professor. I was given that name by someone close to me when I became a Shriner. Before that, when I was a kid, like 15, I had a friend, and he was in college. And I can't even tell you now to this day, I couldn't tell you how I could always keep up with whatever he was studying. But he nicknamed me at the age of 14, 15, he nicknamed me Super Genius. And I can give you even more examples. But the reason why I give these examples is this is something that's in me.
Yeah.
That others recognize. For it to pass over from decade to decade where I get these names, and they actually fit because I've always been a reader. I've always been a studier. I've always been willing to help somebody else get to where I get what I got, or, you know, I've never been a feed you for a day type of person. I've been a teach you how to fish type of person. And so this ties into Akashic Records. Now, I was going to read more from the Manly P. Hall, but I'm not. But just to give a brief understanding, and again, I say this because I always throw this offer out there. Anybody listening, you are welcome to email me, and I'll give you any PDFs I have. At the end of the show, I'll drop it, Michael K. Bell at yahoo.com. I'll drop it again at the end, but I like to give you something tangible just so you can actually have your own results and not have to take my word or consider me the only person that can teach you how to get there, because I'm a firm believer that we are our own teachers. Other people mirror that within us. And that's why we learn from different people. And C. Freeman L. was the one that broke down the word education. Educare means to draw out what's within. So I just want to say that. But I was going to do more. Anybody that wants this PDF, I got it for you. I dropped my email again. But I just want to say that just in terms of understanding what Akash and Akashic Records are, to compare it to Ether is kind of somewhat incomplete, but it does apply because our memories. Manly P. Hall, he states that when we die, our physical body goes immediately. I believe the next body within our auric field, it's slipping me. I want to say it's the etheric body is right above the physical body. Yeah, etheric body. So your etheric body actually lingers much longer than the physical body. And then the one just above that, that's how, like how you'll notice, like when, if you channel, and channeling is a good topic to bring up right now because we're talking about the ethers and these waves of information in the ethers. That's why when somebody passes away, like a Michael Jackson or Steve Freemanell or Dick Gregory or whoever, people start having these dreams because they essentially become one with the force for a brief amount of time. Yeah. And it's strongest within those 3 to 4 days of passing. So you can tune into that frequency, you can get that message and what have you. But the core of that information, which is, like I said, those first 4 bodies are what kind of, like at the most, your personal memories and stuff will hang around like 400 years. But now 3 to 400 years. But what the soul holds on to, which carries over for millennia, because everything is tied into that Taurus field, and with the earth, these memories, they don't go anywhere. That's why we're rapidly evolving, whether people can see it or not, because the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. Yeah. So we tap into this information and we refine it and we get better as time progresses. So on a very mundane level, on a very personal level, the essence of who you are, especially if you stood out as an individual, it will be around for a minimum of 3 to 4 days to possibly 300 to 400 years. But yet the essence of who you are, the essence of what you learn, everybody's soul stores that in the Akashic. Yeah. And that's where you go and you can draw this information. Now, before, I know I hope I'm not rambling, but I don't want to just dominate.
Look, you is my professor, bro. Ever since I learned that you was because I was like, who is this professor? When I seen them ads, I was like, who is this professor? You my professor. You the professor that I always wanted. I only had one black professor, and that was when I was 14. So you the second black professor that I've ever had, fam.
Okay. Well, I just say that because, like I say, I hate that feeling because I do have a tendency to talk too much.
I know, me too. But that's why I'm shutting up and letting you talk. Because usually I'm learning this art of communication. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm just letting you talk. Because, man, I can listen to you all day.
Okay. So I'm gonna get into it, and then once we get to the basis, I definitely want to share some of my experiences. So what I was gonna say was that these Akashic memories that they're stored, essentially, it's the memory of the earth. The earth is alive. So these memories that are stored, that are around, we have access to it. Now, what you'll find, and I find this is a somewhat new thing, you find a lot of people who say Akashic Records are over. They're gone. Yeah. Everybody has access to the Akashic Records. There is no one place you go to. I can agree with that on some levels, but I can't swallow that whole statement in its entirety, because to say that it's gone is to say that the ethers, the Akash, the earth, wiped a part of his memory or caught Alzheimer's. And that's just not the case. But what I can understand is that the time that we are in, we spoke on it earlier, information age, the digital age, the age of Aquarius. At this time, personally, I'm at the understanding that everyone has access to that, and it's being mimicked by the internet, which is why we get these creepy moments where you're thinking something and you go on the internet and it's advertised. This is the equivalent of having access to your Akashic Records. Yeah. So I just say I want to throw that out there because I don't want to disagree with some of the people who I listen to. And this is another thing. Just because I like somebody, the information they deliver, do not think that I agree with them 100%. Right. And I will say the same to anybody. If you hear me say something and you disagree, what I would suggest is do your research. And if you do the research, you either find out that it is true or that it isn't. But do it for yourself to come to your own understanding instead of taking someone else's word. So I say that. I say that because people who I respect, like Khadijah, and there's others, they say
Damn, she really
Akashic
putting it
Records
in.
is
Yeah,
man.
she is
And like I
bad
said,
with
man,
it.
when she does the past lives and all that, like I said,
Man,
I can't dispute what she's saying. I can only state what my research up to this point has
yeah,
brought to me.
I love her.
And so that's the understanding that I have, is that we all have access. And I know what I want to do. I want to share this, one of my experiences while we're on the topic of Akashic Records being here, gone, or whatever.
Hmm.
One in particular is uh, how I did my own past life regression. I'm certain others have different techniques that are more tried and true. What I did was I went on YouTube, I listened to different past life regressions.
Hmm.
I found one that kind of I could vibe with. I listened to it all the way through. And then after that, I took it and made it my own.
Yeah,
Once
me too.
I realized the mechanics. What it was doing was essentially they would take you at some point, they will all take you like down a hallway. There will
Hmm.
be multiple doors. You're going to go down the hallways for so long, then you're going to pick a door. Essentially, each door represents a past life.
Yeah.
You can say in the simplest form also, each door represents access to a different part of the Akasha. So this is something that you can meditate on during the day. You can meditate on it as you go to sleep. And so long as you begin the techniques. Now, how I was able to master this technique came from Philip Cooper's book, The Magician.
Hey.
Because in The Magician, that's where I got the practice of. In The Magician, Philip Cooper recommends that you create you a sacred space in the astral
Hmm.
via meditation, and you take your time getting there, because all you're doing is you're taking your mind from this active woke state, you're taking it down into uh, delta, theta, and gamma.
Uh
These are the
huh.
different levels of your consciousness. So these, as you go through these hallways and these doors, and you might walk over a hill and you climb up a mountain. Oh yeah, and okay, I'll definitely do it.
Wow, it's 88 people in here. That's what's up.
Yeah. So okay, let me get back to it real quick. So I
Okay,
want to
okay.
explain. I just want to explain the mechanics of how it works, because there is a logic behind it. So I found me a good past life regression. Took me through the woods and found a cabin, went to the cabin, whatever. Well, once I got this one, I adopted, I made it my own. Well, at one experience, I went I went into it was like a barn in the, because the more you meditate on a single topic, the more details seem to pop up. So this
Hmm.
time, instead of going to the house, it was like a little cottage in the woods. I went into a little barn in the back. I walked into the barn, and then the barn opened up front and back. When I went to the back, there was this, like, the best I can say is like a projection of my higher self.
Hmm.
Uh, I couldn't see his face. It was dark. He had long dreads. Uh, you know, and he presented me with, and as I'm talking to you, it's crazy because I just had a olfactory flashback. I could smell the soil. It smelled very earthy.
Mm.
Soil, and it was bright, and it was trees, and so he presented me with a book, and he said that this is your book of leaves. And I got the book, and I was juiced. Because one thing I do when I'm lucid dreaming or astral projecting, I try to read anything. If I
Hmm.
can read it, I read it. I want to remember it, so when I wake up, I can jot it down. So when he gave me this book, I was like, it was a living document. The book, it had vines and like trees, like twigs, and it was like growing. You could hear it creaking and growing. It was getting bigger by the moment. It was a living document. I opened it up. I didn't see nothing at first, and he just simply stated again, "You would now have your book of leaves." And I took the book, and I was kind of like, "Ah, man, what is this?" I was kind of disappointed. But it took me to reflect back on it, and I was in meditation, reflecting back on it, opened up the book again, and it hit me. This is your book of leaves. This is your book of lives. You now got access. You now have access to explore any. This is your book now. Here, take it. You've done the work. You're ready for it. You're mature enough. You can have at it.
You said book of lies.
Well, what he said was book of leaves, like leaves on a tree. But I realized it was my book of lives, as in past lives.
Lives, book of lives.
Yes,
got you.
Book of lives. So, because I didn't understand it. Why would he give me a book of leaves? You know, it didn't. So, but in meditation, in that state of stillness, it just rung out in my mind. It's not leaves, it's lives.
Yeah. And
so from that point, I really began to dive in. And like I said, my goal was the summer, but I believe I went June, July, August, September, October. I went about to November, where that's all I focused on. And I had so many personally profound events. One I definitely want to share. Excuse me. One I definitely want to share is a technique that I got from Brother Panic.
Hey,
he has said that. Shout out to Panic. He has said that a good thing to do in meditation is either you go up a winding stair that doesn't stop, or you go down, like a whale or something, or you go swimming and you go towards the bottom. First thing I did was just swimming. I didn't like that personally. I didn't care for it. I tried the going up. That didn't really do it for me. It just seemed like forever. You know what I'm saying? So I tried going down. I went down this little whaleway, had stairs carved into it. It was pitch black. And I went down. And the thing I'll say to anybody listening, the goal is to stick with a meditation, which is why you'll find that some people have 2, 3, even more different meditations that they might practice. You don't have to do it daily. It's best if you do, but you might have a meditation for this. You might have multiple different meditations. Yeah. So for me, this was one of the ones where I just dedicated about 20 to 30 minutes a day to it. At the time, I was definitely meditating about 3 to 5 times a day. Meditation can become addictive.
Yeah.
It can become addictive. I was meditating every chance I got. I would meditate as soon as I woke up. I would leave, go to work an hour early, go into the offices, meditate in the offices. At some point, like I would eat my lunch early, maybe meditate on lunch. And then when I got home, I would definitely meditate myself to sleep, because you can actually do the work in your sleep. So that was what I was on. But anyway, I would go down. I was going down these stairs, and I just kind of like got bored. But I had just gave up on 2 previous techniques, right? So I didn't want to give up on this. So I just started playing. And that's another thing I would suggest. When you first start out, don't be super serious. People don't realize it, but laughter is divine.
Oh yeah.
And a tendency that a lot of us have, myself included, when you first come to this understanding, you be angry. You are angry.
Serious
and nobody tell me this. Serious as hell. But what you have to realize is that laughter is divine. Real quick, the word jovial is connected to Jove and Jupiter, not just the planets, but the deities. It is also connected to. It also is the root word of Jehovah. There is a mantra. There's a ha mantra. Ha 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 ha. You can achieve a state of nirvana just through laughing.
That reminds me. Gelomancy is divinity. It's a divination practice of laughter, like getting that like a, I don't even know what to call it, but in that state of hysteria, and you're able to channel in that.
We have Listen, we have all laughed so hard that we almost felt dizzy. That's just getting in that's the same state you want to get into when you're performing a ritual,
Yeah.
when you're going to meditation. You want to get into that state where you're open. Actually, I just watched a real good video on YouTube about breathing. Deep breathing techniques bring you to the same state of mind as psilocybin, which is mushrooms, and
Yeah.
LSD. So laughter is a form of like contracted breathing. But I bring that up to say I started playing in this meditation. So first I would dive down and I would I dove down the middle. I made the stairs disappear. I would float on this pad. I would, like I was skydiving. I got tired of doing that. So I created a little pad that I stood on, a little station. I would float down on that at a slow pace. And then eventually I created a globe to light it up. So I finally thought about it like, dude, why are you doing all this in the dark? You can't even see what's around you. As I started going down, I noticed that the walls were not just completely black and bland. The walls actually had like stones in it. I could see the carvings of the stones. So out of nowhere, I said, you know what? I'm writing my name in this stone.
Yeah.
You know, the professor was here. You know what I'm saying? But when I went to write into the stone, like a light came through the stone. And so it just made me think, hold up, wait. I'm going down. I'm going to go inside. This is clearly a building. And something you'll find, I've experienced it more in astral projections and some lucid dreams. You'll find that you have like a 3D, like an X-ray vision. You can see through things. But I won't even restrict it to just dream astral projection, because you can experience this in a dream also, where you can see through a door or a wall. Yeah. So as I started trying to dig through the little wall, I could see behind it, and I saw it was a hallway. And so, long story short, I stopped digging and I just wished it away. Yeah, I'm in a meditative state. I control this, so I wished it away, and I started walking down this hallway. I had my little globe of light. I'm doing the gestures. You can't see it, but I used to hold my hand up, and the light would be in my hand. But then I realized I ain't gotta hold my hand up. The light gonna bob at shoulder height anyway. And so, about 2 more minutes. And so, as I was walking down this hallway, at the time, I was really heavy into sigils. I used to create, because the thing about sigils is you want to turn a statement into a symbol and then forget about it. Whether that symbol is for health, wealth, sex drive, whatever it is you want, you turn a statement into a symbol, and then you want to forget about it. How you forget about it, you can burn it, bury it, set it on fire, tear it up, let it blow in the air, whatever you want to do. Flush it down the toilet. And so as I was walking through, again, I found myself in this long-ass hallway that's leading to nowhere. So I looked, and I realized that I had the X-ray vision there. I looked to my right through the wall, and what I saw was simply amazing. It was like, the best way I can describe it would be like a 3D library. I say 3D because there weren't people in there. There were creatures, like giraffes that walked straight up, elephants that had like human bodies, but they were still proportionately that species. There were birds flying, but I called it 3D because there were like stations on what could be the ground, on all 4 walls, and the ceiling. People up on the ceiling, sitting at desks, doing whatever they was doing. And so, but there were all these little like fantastic creatures. None of them I didn't see a single human. Well, I tried to get in there different little ways. I could not get directly in there, and that was frustrating. So what I ended up doing, that's why I brought up the sigils. What I ended up doing, I just realized, hey, I don't need to go in there. The perfect time. I created a sigil right there, and I just made it rain on all them creatures. And I could see them picking them up, looking at it. To this day, I still don't remember it, but I'm certain that the sigil worked, because, to be honest, there is nothing I haven't worked on that hasn't come into fruition yet. It may have taken more time than I liked, but the thing about a sigil is, even though you're forgetting what it is, you still got to do the work.
Yeah.
It's not. It's that's not the kind of magic that we're discussing here today, where you know things just happen.
Right.
You do the work. You progress. You progress forward, whether you remember what that sigil is or not. Whether you consciously remember what it is or not. And so, what I want to say is, before I get too far away from putting the sigils in there, was that that in and of itself was a bomb ass experience.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was, now mind you, this was like, I just said it, like 2016, 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And Panic had did a lecture about the Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
And how Tibetan monks have been talking about this for centuries. When he described it, I said, "Oh shit, I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I was." So I went, did my own research. The more I read about the Crystal Palace, only difference was Tibetan monks describe it as having a reddish or pink hue. For me, it was a greenish blue. And that's easily understood because we experience life through the lenses of where we currently are. You know, red, most people assume the root chakra is like bad. You know, he's root chakra, but no, the root chakra simply signifies that a person is very well grounded, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, I can only translate the greenish blue tint as heart chakra progressing to throat chakra, the green and the blue. And those two colors, green is green is the color of love. Mm-hmm. Spring and green flowers. Blue is the color of verbal. Mm-hmm. We make blue a masculine color in today. However, in Egypt, blue was feminine and red was masculine. Pink was masculine. You know, not pink, but the colors were reversed. Yeah. So that was the understanding that I came to for myself. And so once I realized it was the Crystal Palace, that even fueled my meditations even more, to the point that other people I knew who were serious about meditating, I tried to see if we could link up at the same time. And I became obsessed and convinced that it was possible, because I always thought that the astral plane, and this is tied into the topic of Akashic ethers, which Manly P. Hall stated a little bit. I did read. He stated that ether is connected to the mental plane. Mm-hmm. In Kabbalah, the first triangle above Malkuth, which is Earth, that triangle is known as the astral triangle. All dreams, meditations, and things of that sort, they take place in the astral. So Akash, ether, it might be of the lowest level. It's not of the mental matter as he discussed it, but this is a plane of the mind. And this is where most of us gain access to Akashic Records, where we master dream control. And I'll say another thing about colors. To those who are familiar with Kabbalah, there are paths in between the Sephiroth. And each path has a different color, as well as each Sephiroth has a different color. So sometimes, like I stated earlier, the greenish blue, that could have simply been that where I would be the planet Mercury and Venus. Mercury in Kabbalah is hold, it's the bluish color. Venus, which is oh wow, it's old hard. Oh man, this is horrible for a true Kabbalist. My memory's slipping me, but the planet Venus, Netzach. The planet Venus is Netzach. Venus is the color green. So you see, just there, I showed you two different ways I could interpret the color scheme and where I was at. You know, all of us, we want to be at the highest heights, but to get to the highest heights, you got to start somewhere. And actually, even discussing it as me being at this point, it doesn't disappoint. It just makes perfect sense. You know, it makes perfect sense. So I would say that out of my experiences, those stand out the most. But I've had so many. I've had. That's another thing I want to touch on. A lot of people talk about the soul, and because we're so gender conscious right now, a lot of people be like, "I was a man in every past life."
Right.
And the thing about that is, again, I can't knock nobody else's experience if that's what the understanding you've come to. But the thing about it is, the soul doesn't think in terms of sexual gender.
Mm-mm.
The soul thinks in terms of masculine and feminine, in terms of negative and positive charges.
Yeah.
So really, we all know aggressive women, just like we know passive men. But most of us identify sexual gender with masculine and feminine. And actually, anybody that follows me on Facebook, that's what I've been doing. I've been working with the Kabbalah, and I made it a
Mm-hmm.
point to spend a whole day on gender because a lot of people assume that gender, when you get to these higher planes, I'm a representative of the divine feminine here on earth. So I know when I get to the higher planes, I'm definitely a representation. But no, it's like it's not gonna be gender in terms because where we are, and in that little bit I read about Melanie P. Hall, where we are now, the physical plane, this is the densest. So here, masculine and feminine is, I guess, for lack of a better word, it's best displayed as male and female.
Mm-hmm.
It's best as five male and female. But we tend to forget that there's actually a third, which is the androgynous or the androgen.
Mm.
So just like with you go down to the atom, protons, electrons, and neutrons, you're gonna have those three states. But the higher up you go, the less density is. And who's to say if the masculine on the highest plane is even anything resembling what we call a man here? It's going to have one of three. It's going to have one of three characteristics, which is negative, positive, neutral.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. And I think that if a lot of people spent more time in the Kabbalion and came to understand the essence of gender, we wouldn't have all of these everybody bent out of shape about like right now. Gender fluidity is a issue. It's a hot topic. Pronouns, this and that. But actually, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter because the Earth is not in danger of depopulation. Doesn't matter who chooses to do what. This ball is going to keep spinning until it's no longer needed as this training field or school that we currently inhabit.
Mm-hmm.
So if right now, actually, what I personally, on the topic of gender fluidity, personally, I believe that just like the poles are switching, so is our definitions of masculine and feminine.
Mm-hmm.
It only makes sense because when we say poles are switching, we're talking about north and south nodes,
Yeah.
right? So if the planetary poles are switching, why shouldn't these gender roles or whatever you want to call it? I'm just for lack of a better explanation, but I just feel like personally, uh, it is what it is. Shit and snowballs roll downhill, not up. And so the one thing I have faith in is that those who came before me that we call ancestors, deities, whatever, I have a firm understanding that they work in my favor. So anything happening now, I just have to find out how it benefits me. That's it. Because
Mm-hmm.
anybody who has an altar out there or venerates an ancestor, you have to have an understanding that your ancestor can affect certain things to be in your benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't do anything to purposely harm you or something like that. So if this is what's going on, then it has to be to my benefit. That's the first thing I'm gonna say to myself.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna woe is me. Oh man, Illuminati, evil. No. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna look to see what is it in my benefit.
Like this topic was on my mind, but I wanted it to come out of your mouth. You know what I'm saying? You
Okay.
being the professor, I wanted to see like what was you gonna tap into, you know?
Hmm.
Cause this is just a lecture for me. I wanted a lecture. I'm sitting here in a lecture. So
Oh
I got
man,
I got
I
some home I
appreciate
got
it.
some homework. I'll make sure to get it to you at 9 o'clock AM tomorrow.
Okay.
Man, thank you so much for coming on and sharing that, bro. Because this is truly one of my passions. How can the people reach you, man?
Oh man, thank you. I stated earlier, my personal email is michaelkbell@yahoo.com. I do my best to build and answer any questions. I have access to a lot of PDFs. I have a long book list I'm willing to share. On Instagram, I have I am who I think I am. And if you're looking right now, the same picture, that's my profile pic here. I try to use it other places so that I'm easiest to find. So if you're looking, there's a bunch of I am who I think I am. You see that profile picture, you'll find me. But I also have two other accounts there. One is for my publishing company, Pillar Publishing LLC. And then I also have a chakra page.
Oh,
I have a page that I told you chakras is my passion.
yeah.
And that page is Kabbalah_Elohim. On Facebook, you're welcome to come and enjoy the madness. I said earlier that I love to laugh. So please don't come on there thinking I'm going to be super serious.
Right.
I'm gonna teach you a diet that's going to help you to ascend to the ninth level of the 12th quadrant of the astral specs. I like to keep it light, and I share my information that way. But you can find me under Michael Bell. Again, scroll to Michael Bell's. You'll see this profile picture. Where else? On YouTube. Please follow me like and subscribe on YouTube. The Code Topics with the Professor. And again, you'll find the same profile picture. And on there, I talk about the same subjects. Actually, I'm getting ready to start a tarot thing, and I'm going to go through each. I'm going to spend a week on each tarot card, and go slowly. Cause I'm doing the work for myself. I don't share anything that I'm not working on myself. So,
Right.
If you want to publish a copy of my book, you can go to pillarpublishing.com, and you'll find it. But you can also you can Google it, and it'll send you to a link somewhere.
And that was the lecture from Michael Bell, A.K.A. the Professor. Man, it's just he's just one big Akashic book himself. The things that he taps into is just amazing. Like I said earlier, I didn't want to interrupt. I was in class, so I wanted to see what other divine information was going to come out of this brother, and man, he did not disappoint. So definitely follow this man. I'll have his social media information in the show notes. But I also want y'all to support this brother. Like, I usually give out my Cash App, but I want y'all to support this man. Donate something to him. If you heard something, if he spoke something that really touched you or it made sense in your personal journey, please support this man. He has a Cash App, $ Michael K. Bell 781, and that's $ MICHAEL, the letter K, BELL 781. And once again, I'll have the link in the show notes as well. But I want y'all to support him, because this was amazing. Like some of this information that he spoke on, they be trying to put in books for like hundreds of dollars. No lie. And he just gives this information so freely. So definitely donate to him, which I'll have my Cash App in the show notes as well if you like to support the show. But donate to this brother right here. Also, don't forget, if you want to check out his book, The Occult Meaning of Masonry, its symbols and the chakra system, you can go to his website at pillarbookpublishing.com. Once again, I'll have that information in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening to the Left Hand Perspective podcast. That's all I have for right now, you guys. Until next time, peace.
wanna go higher, got to go deeper, deeper, deeper. Gotta light that fire, turn that heater, heater, heater. Kalindi, got good and plenty, plenty, plenty. Kalindi, got good and